Hi, everyone. I've got Jeff Clark, the senior precious metals analyst at goldsilver.com, on the line with me for another conversation. How you doing, Jeff?
Thanks, Mike, and it's great to be back with you. We haven't done these videos in a while, so it's really great to be back talking with you. And we have a lot to talk about. And the first thing is the election. We've had an election. There are projections out there, but I basically want to ask you, and I think people want to know, what do you think about what we've seen so far with the election? And does it change anything for you in terms of investing in gold and silver?
No, it doesn't change anything, and it really doesn't matter what party ends up in office. They're going to be doing massive currency printing, which is very good for gold and silver. But the two parties tend to spend the currency that they create differently. But it's still, there's going to be huge deficit spending. We are in for a crisis. The crisis will probably end up being a banking crisis also because, we've had the forbearance on mortgages and, people not paying their rents and so on. Well, that comes to an end one day, the forbearance, the forgiveness, and then you owe those back payments plus the payments that you need to make. So there's going to be a wave of bankruptcies, foreclosures, and when people are not making their payments, this leads to an upset in the bank's balance sheets. So we've got banks that are probably on the verge of insolvency right now. And one day we're going to wake up and it'll just be like the Lehman crisis. They kept everything under the rug for a long time. They kept any news of it suppressed. And we just learned that, we woke up one morning and learned that there was this huge bank, global financial crisis of 2008 was this big, huge surprise to us one morning. Same thing's going to happen this time. You're not going to know that it's coming. And then suddenly, the Secretary of the Treasury and the head of the Federal Reserve and all of these people with the head of the European Central Bank, they'll all be on television trying to moderate this crisis that we will suddenly be in. But it isn't sudden. You can see it coming. It's creeping up on us now. I'm getting ready. But ultimately, the big winners in this, I think, are still going to be gold and silver. And it doesn't matter what party is in office.
Right. That's a good point. It isn't who occupies the White House so much as it is this mega trend, this crisis that's barreling down upon us and that we need to be prepared for it. So yes, great.
Yeah.
point.
And they're going to do deficit spending that is just massive. And now they're preparing with it so that the Federal Reserve can create currency and give it directly to citizens through these digital wallets that they're going to, they'll have the Fed cryptocurrency that they're going to deposit into the digital wallets, which that's really going down a very dangerous road. This is, a form of enslavement and being able to track everybody. But, I've been saying that a shift in the world monetary system is coming, and I've been saying that for more than a decade, and we're here. It's happening right now. Over the next couple of years, there's going to be a tremendous shift in the way everything operates and the global economy. Right now, the Chinese economy is growing, and we've shrunk an awful lot. And so this shift of power from the West to the East is also taking place at the same time.
Yes, the point being, don't stop your financial preparation. So, the next article I wanted to talk to you about, Mike, was an article, the news that came out on Monday that Pfizer supposedly has come up with a vaccine that is 90% effective. Now, that has since been questioned. The efficacy of that, the effectiveness of that has since been questioned. But the idea of a vaccine coming out for the virus, and this article talks about that it could speed up the economic recovery and dim the hopes for additional stimulus. So, Mike, is that what you see coming, that a vaccine comes and is widely distributable, and so therefore there's no more need for further stimulus, either monetary or fiscal?
No, I don't think that there's any way that they can prevent the banking crisis, whether we have a vaccine or not. And this vaccine, how well tested is it? Does it have any side effects? This was really rushed into place. And I hear that it's a fragile vaccine, that it's not a stable, robust vaccine. It requires refrigeration at very specific temperatures to retain its efficacy. So how effective is it going to be when it's actually out in distribution? There's a whole lot of questions here. And I'll tell you what, I don't want to be the first person to get it, that's for sure. But the way that they're engineering things, they're going to be able to limit travel for people that haven't been vaccinated and stuff. This government control sort of scares me. I don't like, I believe that this is a plandemic at this point, not a pandemic. There's a lot of investigation that you would have to do. But, there was one company that filed for a patent 1 year before the lockdown. It was March of 2019, citing the potential of an accidental or intentional release of a coronavirus. And they wanted this patent rushed through because they thought that this might happen. That's pretty suspicious that somebody files for a patent well before this whole thing has happened. So anyway, I think that the global monetary system is on its last legs, and the Keynesians that are running things, they may understand all of the microeconomics. They can see the trees, but they can't see the forest for the trees. They're into these little details and formulas, and they make up numbers so high that only dogs can hear them. But that's from the movie Tucker. But they just don't understand the very fundamentals of economics, the foundation. I'm going to have some videos on this early next year. Therefore, I think they see that they are starting to lose control. You look at the charts of Federal Reserve, the repos, the T-bill purchases, and they're flipping this stuff on and off like a light switch these days. Instead of dialing it up and dialing it down, they're trying this emergency maneuver. And then they go, oh, well, that didn't work. We'll try this thing. And it's actually, when you start looking at the charts, it's actually pretty scary.
Yes, good point. And a vaccine, if a vaccine does speed up the recovery, as this article is claiming, be aware of inflation setting in even faster based on the amount of currency printing and stimulus that's been instituted. I'm actually doing some research on inflation right now, so that article will be out this week. So you can all watch for that. So
excellent, because what this is if you watch Hidden Secrets of Money episode 7, this is the beginning of that cycle where they panic, because if you replace the term baby boomers with the plandemic, they're responding to some emergency, and that emergency is frightening people and slowing down velocity, and they're trying to print to compensate for that. But all of that excess printed currency is basically stored up energy. And when we get to a point where there's enough out there to where people feel comfortable spending it, and it starts coming out of hiding, that's when you see retail price inflation. And I think it's going to be massive, because I do not think that, vaccine or no, the crisis is not over. And when there's an inevitable market correction, because right now, the stock market compared to the GDP just, it collapsed. And we've had a rebound in GDP, but people forget that many people just don't understand. If you lose 50% of something and then you gain 50% back, you're only at 75%. You lose 50%, so you're down at 50 from 100. 50% gains on 50 brings you to 75, not back to 100. We're nowhere near back to the GDP that we were at at the end of last year. So our economy has shrunk significantly while we're probing these all-time highs on the stock market. It's totally insane. And so the value of the stock market compared to the GDP is in these insane levels that are completely unsustainable, can't last, and there will be a correction. And when the stock market starts its next leg down, there will be a response from the Federal Reserve to that. So, and there's going to be a banking crisis sometime or another, and there will be a response to that. So the vaccine, this really doesn't enter into the picture. In the long term, they never should have shut down the economy. Sweden and all of the economies where they basically told people what was happening. They've had an informed population. They told them what some of the protections are, and then they made people self-responsible. It's your responsibility to protect yourself and your family from, what this pandemic. And those countries have done the best without damaging their GDP. The damage that they've sustained to their GDP, their economies, is caused because they trade with other nations that closed down their economies. In Puerto Rico here, I mean, there were weeks. I've got a view of one of the major freeways out one of my windows. And during a rush hour when people would normally be going to work, you'd see one car going by where normally it was like stop and go traffic, just packed. You got this freeway that's like 8 lanes wide and one car going down it. It was just absolutely horrific what they did to the economy here.
It was horrific. You're right. And on a happier note, hopefully, we have the holidays coming up, Mike. And we've talked about gold jewelry before and how much you own. Gold Silver's offering our gold bullion jewelry sale now. But you've mentioned that you own quite a bit of gold jewelry. They make beautiful gifts.
Yeah. I buy it for a completely different reason, though. I don't buy it because it's pretty and because I want to give it as gifts. I buy it because it doesn't have a history of confiscation. Throughout history, when a country is in trouble and they need to print a lot of currency, they may make gold illegal to own, but that's coins and bars usually. Then the people that, if you try to nationalize the jewelry, now you're pissing off the women. And politicians don't want to do that. And so it's a rare event that they try to nationalize or confiscate the jewelry. And also, when you fly from one country to another, there's a landing card that you've got to fill out, and it asks you if you're bringing in any cash or cash equivalents, financial assets such as stocks and bonds. Doesn't mention jewelry. Elizabeth Taylor used to fly around the world with like $250,000 worth of jewelry all the time. And that was back in the 60s and 70s. And so, yeah, I've got a whole bunch of many ounces of gold necklaces, gold bracelets. And it is, if they did do a nationalization, what happens is you have to turn it over and they buy it from you. But then shortly after that, the price will change big time. But if you sell it to them, it means that the price, you will have already had some performance. This will be at much higher prices than today, probably north of $10,000 an ounce gold. And so you don't try to become a criminal. You sell them your coins and bars, and you get to keep the jewelry. And so that's the reason I have the jewelry. Is it's portable wealth that is private and usually not something that governments will try to nationalize.
Yes, so that's a very good reason to own some gold bullion jewelry, in addition to it being beautiful. And again, we are specifically talking about gold bullion jewelry, not costume jewelry. This
Right.
is the same purity as a gold eagle. And
Right. There is a cost to form the gold into a necklace or a bracelet. But typically, when you're buying at a retail outlet, like a store, a jewelry store, you're paying 2, 3, 4 times, even 5 times the spot price. You're paying for the art value, and then the labor that it took to do this, plus a chain of, you know, the manufacturer of the raw chain, the manufacturer where they take spools of raw chain, turn it into a necklace or whatever, a distributor, and then the retailer. And so we went directly to the chain manufacturer, right to the source, and had them make up some very standardized necklaces and stuff for us that are much, much closer than the spot price than you're going to see from a jewelry store. So I would stay away from jewelry where you're paying so much over spot, because it's going to take a lot of gold performance as far as the percentage move to make up for that. But, you know, if you the movie 7 Years in Tibet with Brad Pitt, there was a time where he had some watches and some rings, and he was able to stay alive because he had those watches and rings that he could trade for necessities. So that's the reason that I have the jewel. The rest of my precious metals I have in storage at Brinks, which makes it highly liquid. It's fully insured. So that's the vast, vast majority of my holdings. But the jewelry is sort of nationalization proof and very, very portable and under the radar. I mean, you can wear it underneath your shirt and fly to a different country if need be.
Yeah, that's great. And we do have a sale going on right now. You'll see that on our website. We encourage you to check that out. There are some discounts. We're offering a pre-Black Friday sale, if you will. So there's also a good guide to buying gold bullion jewelry on our site. And we'll link that below this video here. So we do sell out every year. So if you do have some interest, it's probably better to check that out sooner rather than later. So, well, Mike, thanks for joining me for this video. That was a great conversation. We'll see you next time. And goodbye, everybody.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.